on the rest of the position. I just need downtown now.
What's that?
I do believe that's.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I just want to stay focused part-wise.
I know. We heard him say that.
Yeah. I didn't like, do you know any of the backstory? Oh my gosh, but he thinks like that. But read it all. No, I was just
Good afternoon, good evening. We will call the City Council meeting for February 21st, 2023 to order, and we will begin with the land acknowledgement. We would like to acknowledge the federally recognized Muckleshoot Indian Tribe, the ancestral keepers of the land we are gathered on today. We thank them for their immense contributions to our state and local history, culture, economy, and identity as Washingtonians. And for tonight, for public participation, the Auburn City Council meeting will be held both in person and virtually. Now, if you would all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. And Hannah, if you would please call roll.
Deputy Mayor Jayraj.
I'm here.
Councilmember Baggett.
Here.
Councilmember Baldwin.
Here.
Councilmember Brown.
Here.
Councilmember Malinga.
Here.
Councilmember Rakes.
Here.
Councilmember Trout Manuel.
Here.
Thank you. It's a short agenda this evening. We have no announcements or proclamations or presentations. I don't believe we have any agenda modifications.
We do just have a correction.
Okay.
The title for Resolution 5698 on page 4 of your agenda It's incorrect, and it should reflect the years of 2023 and 2026. The dates on the actual legislation itself on page 55 of the packet does have the correct years.
Wonderful. Thank you, Hannah. All right. We will move to audience participation. This is the place on the agenda where the public is invited to speak to the City Council on any issue. Participants can submit written comments via mail, fax, or email. All written comments must be received prior to 5 p.m. on the day of the scheduled meeting and must be 350 words or less. Please mail written comments to City of Auburn, attention Sean Campbell, City Clerk, 25 West Main Street, Auburn, Washington, 98001. Please fax written comments to attention Sean Campbell, City Clerk, at 253-804-3116, or email written comments to publiccomment@auburnwa.gov. Excuse me. If an individual requires an accommodation to allow for remote oral comment because of a difficulty attending a meeting of the governing body, the city requests notice of the need for accommodation by 5 p.m. on the day of the scheduled meeting. Participants can request an accommodation to be able to provide remote oral comment by contacting the city clerk's office in person, by phone at 253-931-3039, or by email to publiccomment@auburnwa.gov. Hannah, I don't believe we received any written comment for this week's meeting, correct?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right, we will move to in-person comment. If anyone in the audience would like to comment, please step forward to the podium, give your name and address for the record, and please limit comments to 3 minutes. Is there anyone that would like to speak? Please come forward, name and address for the record, in 3 minutes.
Virginia Haugen, excuse the throat. Virginia Haugen, 2503 R Street, Southeast, Auburn, Washington. I'm here to speak to resolution number 5698 on the agenda. Has to do with borrowing funds from the general fund, loans. I'm against that. Twice we had to do that while I was a member of the city council. Once clear back in about 1994, I believe, and again probably in about 2010. I think it's a bad idea. I think that we have enough problems right now economically that the one thing the city of Auburn should not do is borrow money from the general fund. I do not care what it's for. I think it's a bad idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like?
And there are a couple ladies out here. They're guests, and it seems to me like it would be appropriate for them to come up and introduce themselves.
Well, we don't put anyone on the spot who comes to visit us during a city council meeting. But if anyone else in the audience would like to come forward and give comments, you are more than welcome to do so.
Hi, my name is Shirley Daniels. I was invited here by Gerald Smiley, but I don't see him here, so.
He ditched you tonight, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. But I just wanted to come because I don't really know how it works, but I just wanted to come to let everybody know that I was going to open up a women and children shelter in Auburn, Washington, nonprofit. So that was all I came for.
Thank you. We are very excited when someone wants to help us in that field, and the contact information that I gave you, I'll give you mine as well. So that, is there anyone else that would like to speak? One last time, is there anyone else that would like to speak? All right, we will move on. We have no correspondence for council to review this evening. Moving to council ad hoc committee reports. Council ad hoc committee chairs may report on the status of their ad hoc council committee's progress on assigned tasks and may give their recommendation to the city council, if any. Currently, we have 2 ad hoc committees. The first is finance, and that is chaired by Councilmember Baldwin.
Thank you, Mayor. The Council Ad Hoc Finance Committee, consisting of Councilmember Robert Baggett and myself, reviewed 138 pages of claims vouchers totaling approximately $3.41 million, dated February 20th, 2023. The committee also reviewed payroll vouchers for the period covering February 2nd, 2023 to February 15th, 2023, totaling approximately $2.68 million. All questions by the committee for the Finance Department were answered to the committee's satisfaction, and upon completion of our review, the committee recommends that council approve the vouchers.
Thank you. And our second ad hoc committee is Mayoral Benefits and Leave Compensation Review, and that is also chaired by Councilmember Baldwin. Sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. Initial update on that is that the ad hoc committee has met. We've had our first meeting, and in that session, we provided a list of materials to Director Martinson as well as Attorney Como to begin gathering requested materials. As of Friday, we've received a portion of that, and we continue to wait for the additional materials. And we have our next meeting scheduled for Monday, February 27th. The items requested are on the topics of being able to show comparative data, looking at our directors' information around their PTO and sick leave, as well as looking at comparative information for regional mayors. Additionally, we've requested that staff gather minutes from previous salary commission meetings dating back through 5 years, a roster of the current members of the Independent Salary Commission to include the year appointed, and the final votes for the past 5 years as well. So that material was requested along with the latest set of HR policies that cover leave benefits and payout for the mayoral position. That's our current status.
Thank you. And Councilmember Baldwin, you may want to note who is on the ad hoc committee since that has not been announced yet.
Certainly. I had been nominated as chair of that committee. Along with me is Councilmember Baggett and Deputy Mayor Jay Raj.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. All matters listed on the consent agenda are considered by the City Council to be routine and will be enacted by one motion in the form listed. Is there a motion? Deputy Mayor Jay Raj.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. Is there a second? Councilmember Trout Manuel.
I would like to second that, Mayor.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Jay Raj.
Thank you, Mayor. The consent agenda for this evening consists of the minutes of January 17th, 2023 special study session, minutes of January 23rd, 2023 special City Council meeting, minutes of the February 6th, 2023 regular City Council meeting, and minutes of the February 13th, 2023 regular study session. And then we've got the claims and payroll vouchers as described by Finance Chair Kate Baldwin and recommended by the Finance Committee. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments on the consent agenda? All those in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye.
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 All opposed, please say no. Consent agenda passes. We have no unfinished business, and I've not heard of any new business coming forward this evening. So we will move to ordinances. Ordinance number 6899, an ordinance establishing the local sales and use tax rate for local revitalization financing for 2023. Is there a motion? Councilmember Baldwin.
I would move to adopt ordinance number 6899.
Thank you. Is there a second? Councilmember Baggett.
I'll second that, Your Honor.
Thank you. Councilmember Baldwin.
Thank you, Mayor. So ordinance number 6899 would levy a 0.0157 sales tax credit against the state sales tax for local revitalization financing. This is something that we have done for the previous 13 years. This would be our 14th year that the city has asked the state for the tax credit. And the rate of the 0.0157 is estimated and set in order to be able to generate approximately $250,000 for local revitalization funding during the state's fiscal year from from July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2024.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, and it is my understanding that this does not increase the tax of any residents within the city, but rather shifts some revenue from the state to the city.
That is correct. That is not an increase on tax for any of the residents. It is a sharing by the state of their portion of the revenue.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes. Are there any other questions or comments? All right. All those in favor of ordinance number 6899, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say no. Motion passes unanimously. Ordinance number 6901, an ordinance for a site-specific rezone of one parcel from R5 residential zone, 5 dwelling units per acre, to I institutional. Is there a motion? Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would like to move adoption of ordinance 6901.
Thank you. Is there a second? Deputy Mayor Jayrush.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to second that motion.
Thank you. Councilmember Brown.
59 Thank you, Your Honor. This ordinance 6901 does redesignate parcel 092-105-9229 from the R5 residential to the institutional designation. This is in response to a need from Green River College for a new purpose for that piece of property, and I recommend adoption.
Thank you. Excuse me. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor of ordinance number 6901, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say no. Ordinance number 6901 passes unanimously. Ordinance number 6903, an ordinance amending Chapter 2.94 of the Auburn City Code related to the city's Transportation Advisory Board. Is there a motion? Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would like to move adoption of ordinance number 6903.
Thank you. Is there a second? Councilmember Malinga.
I'll second that, Your Honor.
Thank you. Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Your Honor. The purpose of the amendment to the Chapter 2.94 is to update this code section to match the current procedures and practices and to ensure full representation from the community in its diversity, consistent with the city's diversity, equity, and inclusion goals.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor of ordinance number 6903, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say no. Motion passes unanimously for ordinance 6903. 6904, an ordinance amending Chapter 12.12 of the Auburn City Code relating to public sidewalk areas to address artificial turf. Is there a motion? Councilmember Brown.
Thank you. I hate to hog all of this tonight, but I would like to move the adoption of ordinance number 6904.
Thank you. Is there a second? Deputy Mayor Jayrush.
I'd like to second that motion, Your Honor.
Thank you. Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Your Honor. Chapter 12.12 of the Auburn City Code provides for improvement and maintenance responsibilities related to sidewalk areas along either side of any street. Sidewalk areas include the landscaped areas that, in many cases, lie in between the curb and the sidewalk and are referred to as landscape strips. The current provision of Chapter 12.12 do not address the artificial turf within landscape strips, and this will correct that.
Thank you. Questions or comments? All right. All those in favor of ordinance number 6904, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say no. Ordinance number 6904 passes unanimously. Moving to resolutions. First is resolution number 5698, a resolution authorizing the transfer of funds for the purpose of making loans from the general fund and or the cumulative reserve fund to funds sustained by grants, fees, or tax credits between February 2023 and February 2026. Is there a motion? Councilmember Baldwin.
I would first move to amend,
Councilmember Baldwin, we need to have the motion on
Oh.
the floor, and then we can amend it.
sorry, thank you. I would move to adopt Resolution 5698.
Thank you. Is there a second? Deputy Mayor Jayraj.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would like to second that motion.
Thank you. Councilmember Baldwin.
Thank you, Mayor. I now move to amend.
I would first explain
Sure.
the resolution.
Thank you. I appreciate your support on the order of operations. So this resolution is really intended to make sure that we have sufficient funds within our different accounts. So the provisions that go with this particular resolution are that the funds that we occasionally have commitments that are coming into us where we have a fund that is supported by grants, fees, tax credits, or other things where we are pending reimbursement for those funding sources. And so within this resolution, what we're looking to do is provide authority limited to $2.5 million per fund that would allow that money to be transferred from the general fund into the target fund and would be returned once the reimbursement has been received. And so this provides better operational opportunity for our finance department to make sure that we have money where we need it and to make sure that things are replaced as our committed funds are coming in from their different sources.
And I do believe that those are zero interest loans, correct, Frank?
That is correct.
Thank you. All right. Councilmember Baldwin, I believe you have an amendment.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I would like to amend Section 1 to append to that section the additional statement that if the transfer amount exceeds a threshold of $500,000, council will be notified of the transaction.
Did you get that, Hannah? All right. Is there a second? Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would like to second that amendment.
Thank you. Councilmember Baldwin, would you like to speak to your amendment?
Sure. The objective here is to make sure that council stays informed of transactions over that threshold as they're occurring. So funds will still be able to transfer. It's keeping us informed of that occurrence from a monitoring standpoint, I suppose.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments on the amendment? All right. All those in favor of the amendment to notify council when the transfer amount meets or exceeds $500,000, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say no. All right, the amendment passes. And, excuse me, now we will move to the resolution. All those in favor of resolution number 5698 as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say no. Resolution number 5698 passes unanimously as amended. All right, moving on to resolution number 5702, a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement between the City of Auburn and King County to implement the 2023-2024 Waste Reduction and Recycling Grant Program and to accept and expend program grant funds. Is there a motion? Councilmember Baldwin.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to adopt Resolution 5702.
Thank you. Is there a second? Councilmember Trout Manuel.
I'll second that, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Baldwin.
Thank you, Mayor. With this motion, resolution number 5702 is for a $75,861 grant from King County for the city's 23 to 24 waste reduction and recycling grant program. King County requests to enter into an interlocal agreement, and as a result of this, this creates an opportunity for the city to have access to those funds in order to promote waste reduction and recycling to businesses, residents, and schools. The grant funding is used to support the following: a community yard sale, classroom presentations, a milk dispenser pilot program within Auburn schools, outreach at city-sponsored events, recycling collection events, and outreach related to the 2022 Organics Management Law. So a positive thing for the city.
Thank you. there any questions or comments? All those in favor of resolution number 5702, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say no. Resolution 5702 passes unanimously. All right, we have come to the end of the business portion of tonight's meeting. We will move to mayor and council member reports. At this time, the mayor and city council may report on significant items associated with their appointed positions on federal, state, regional, and local organizations, and we will begin with Deputy Mayor Jayraj.
Thank you, Mayor. Last Wednesday and Thursday, I was proud our council, all of our council members, were able to attend AWC Action Days at Olympia. Attending workshops and meetings with our senators and representatives was a great opportunity to be able to lobby for what they should possibly concentrate on for our city. We talked about Blake decision, which involves the Washington drug possession laws, police pursuit, affordable housing and transportation. Director Hinman, Councilmember Trout, and myself met with Senator Fortunato, and he was in agreement with our request. Councilmember Baldwin and myself met with our former colleague, Representative Chris Stearns, and he's helping us with needed requests for funding. This was a good learning process for the council, as most of us had not had a chance to do so, since most of us came into office just before COVID shut down. And I will let Councilmember Trout and Councilmember Baldwin elaborate more about our meetings. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Malinga.
Thank you, Your Honor. I also had a chance to attend the conference on Wednesday and Thursday, and had a chance to meet with Senators Jamila Taylor and the other one skipping. Thank you very much, Claudia Kaufman. I am so sorry. That was a really great opportunity to also talk about the issue with affordable housing, and I felt that they really understood the points that we were bringing, and we're happy to support our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Riggs.
Thank you, Mayor. I had the privilege of going to the same thing. It was a very educational thing for me for being new, and I really enjoyed meeting with the legislation and letting them know Auburn's needs. I also attended Lakota Daughters of the Revolution, and I tell you, they had a speaker there that was wonderful, and she talked about the signers of the Declaration of Independence and their whole backgrounds, where they came from, what they did for a living, and I found that very interesting. They also passed out awards. A downtown business got a community award, and then several school kids got community awards. So it was a really good time.
Excellent. Thank you for attending for us. Councilmember Baggett.
Thank you, Your Honor. I also had the opportunity of meeting with our representatives, Jamila Taylor and Eric Robertson. We discussed the items that Deputy Mayor has mentioned, and it fell in favor with all of the people we spoke with. And hopefully we will get an agreement with all the parties when the thing comes to the floor. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Councilmember Trout Manuel.
I also attended, and as my colleagues have already reported on the ones that we went to visit, and it's always nice to go and visit our state representatives, because it also lets them know what we are expecting of them, and it was very well received. I, on February 2nd, am on the Sound City Association Domestic Violence Task Force, and our task force has been working on getting letters to get fundings from our King County, Dale Constantine, and all of the King County council members. We wrote a letter on asking them to fund for domestic violence to receive $115,000 annually to hire 2 new staffs for helping them to get protection.
Councilmember Trout, sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, I'm
Could you
sorry,
turn your
yeah.
mic on?
I apologize. Do I have to start all over? This funding is to hire two staff to work on protection survivors' documentations because they were getting backed up and women were not receiving these protection orders on time. So we did receive from the King County $115,000 to hire two ladies. Now we're working on a draft to send to our senators and also our governor to, we're asking for 131 million funds for crime victims services. And this is for children of domestic violence, sexual assault, trafficking. And so we are working on this draft right now, and I and Councilwoman, Deputy Mayor woman Susan Honda have taken on to write this and send it to our senators and also to our governor to see if they can put aside this funding to get this much needed funds. Then on February 16, I met with HELO, our National Leagues of City Advocacy Board, which I am vice chair of, and we met on what are we addressing to our National Leagues of City to get our Congress individuals to help us, our cities, on funding, and a lot of us are asking for mental health. Our cities are really hurting on mental health funding. Also for broadband, and that is something that we did here at AWC, that Washington State is going to be a pilot program. They're going to have a pilot program on broadband with the help of NLC, so that they're going to be sending us some more information on that. Then today I met with my Human Development Committee, where I'm on the board, and we talked about the needs. What are we going to do this year, 2023 to 2024? And again, the topics that are really on the top of the list is mental health and also housing and broadband. So those are three of the things that we are going to be working, and other stuff. We're going to be reviewing our whole policy because we've gotten a lot of new council members and we go through our policy every year. And that is my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would just simply like to acknowledge the good work of your office and the council support that helped us arrange all of these appointments. It is a logistical, difficult task, and we all were able to meet our representatives on time and well coordinated. So just wanted to acknowledge the work that was done to prepare for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Brown. Councilmember Baldwin.
Thank you, Mayor. As you've heard, I had the opportunity to attend the AWC Lobby Days in Olympia with our group, which was wonderful. And to echo Councilmember Brown, a big thank you to staff for all the work you did in helping us put together our legislative agenda well in advance so that we could go into those sessions prepared, as well as the work that the mayor does in keeping us aligned with AWC as an organization as a whole. I think working together as a group of cities gives a lot more strength to the needs that we have in our communities. In meeting with Representative Jamila Taylor of the 30th Legislative District, it felt that we had some success in the conversations related to adjusting state code related to being able to hire designated crisis responders. So some excitement in the energy within that conversation. And in talking with Representative Chris Stearns, our former peer and now representative of the 47th Legislative District, finding out more about how we can get into the cycle to seek funding in support of the city, and looking forward, hopefully, to some opportunities with the Climate Commitment Act down the road. So both sharing information about the needs of the city as well as finding out new opportunities that we can explore in the future. It was great. Thank you.
Thank you. And I can assure you, we put in those requests for funds well in advance of the cutoff. In fact, we have been the recipients of significant dollars over the last few years, millions of dollars. I love those commas when they come into play with funding, and some of it have been for our projects. Some of it, as you are aware, has been for the Consolidated Resource Center. And so we are always very thankful for our representatives and our senators who work on our behalf to secure those funds for us. On Friday, February 10th, we hosted the Green River Montessori School middle schoolers. And it was a group of 7 to 10. And they, council came up here and took your place. And so we had a mock council meeting, and their motion that they made was to start school later in the day. Surprisingly, that motion failed. There were enough people, enough of the students that were early risers that wanted to get their day over with and didn't want a late arrival. And so I think their teachers were a bit surprised. But we talked in here about local government, the similarities between the federal government with the 3 legislative branches. And then we turned into chopped liver because the police department was out in the courtyard with motorcycles and police vehicles. And yeah, nothing compares to being able to, hopefully the only time in their life, see the back end of a police vehicle. But that was a really great way. And then they went over to engineering, and they also were able to take a tour of our airport. So they're studying local government, or they're studying government, and so I think we gave them a really great opportunity to see local government in action and to understand how things work, and hopefully we have some future council members down the road. So that's always fun. And then right after that, to really change gears, I had invited our new King County prosecutor, Lisa Mannion, into our office and also invited Mayor Ralph from Kent and Mayor Pavone from Renton to come in and chat about our concerns over filing and disposition standards, or FADs, as well as how can we work together instead of trying to fight one another for our philosophies. What areas can we find that we are in agreement on that we can work together and strengthen that relationship? And I'm happy to say that she was very open to that, and in fact very welcoming and wanting to work together. We asked for some information on the Restorative Community Pathways. That is the program for juveniles. It's a diversion program. And we have said, Mayors Ralph and Pavone and I have said we will shout it from the rooftops if we have proof that it works. But so far we have not had the data provided to us that would allow us to get over our fear of heights and shout from those rooftops. So she is working on some of that information for us. And then on Monday, February 13th, my entire day was spent down in Seattle prior to coming to the council study session. Sound Transit provided a day-long training on tribal relations, and that was offered by the Governor's Office of Indian Affairs. It was a very, very interesting way to spend the day with individuals who shared all kinds of stories, provided the insight, gave the history. If former council member Stearns were around, he can also provide that same history. He's phenomenal in that regard. One of many ways that he's phenomenal, but it was a great way to spend the day, and I look forward to sharing some of that information with you. We did come away with a booklet of information that I will be copying to provide to each one of you. I think you'll find it very interesting as well. I was also down in Olympia. Deputy Mayor, you mentioned everybody but me. I was down there as well.
You didn't want to say that.
So
I want wanted to thank the council.
So we were down there for 2 very full days, and I was very proud to have all of our council members down there and being very active and listening. And I think, council, you heard from at least a couple of our representatives of the fact that Auburn is doing very good work, especially when it comes to affordable housing, and that's something that we should all be very proud of. Representative Stokesbury has used Auburn as an example for the past few years when affordable housing bills come up. And as he said, if more cities did things like Auburn, we wouldn't be here with this difficult discussion on how many units of affordable housing we are in a deficit for this state. So I always appreciate that. And then on on Saturday, because the work never stops, I was signed in to testify on Substitute Senate Bill 5536, and that is the Blake fix, if you will. Blake being the decision that basically said that our drug laws in the state were unconstitutional because the word knowing was not in front of in possession of drugs. And so the current substitute bill does provide for a treatment-forward proposal that would make possession of drugs a gross misdemeanor, a misdemeanor or gross misdemeanor. It will not go back to being a felony again in this state, I doubt, within our lifetimes. But as a misdemeanor or gross misdemeanor, if the individual chooses not to go into treatment, that means that more of the responsibility will be held at the local level, because we do not try felonies here in this state, in this court that we have, but misdemeanors and gross misdemeanors. And so wanting to make sure that the Senate Ways and Means Committee understood that the City of Auburn is supportive of this substitute Senate bill, but that we also want to ensure that there is funding available for prosecutors, for public defenders, and for the treatment programs that are going to be so necessary, hopefully, when that bill passes. And then yesterday, which was a holiday for most, was not a holiday for me. I testified. It was a 3-hour period of time along with Mayor Ralph on Substitute House Bill 1363, which is a bill on pursuits and moving pursuits on some violent crimes back to reasonable suspicion versus probable cause. And there was very, very emotional testimony from 2 mothers whose daughters had been hit while they were walking to school by a person who had stolen a lawn maintenance vehicle and hit their daughters. One of the daughters passed away from their injuries, and the other is just now coming back from her physical injuries. But imagine the amount of time it's going to take to come back from those emotional injuries, and especially not having her best friend around any longer. That was very compelling testimony. And hopefully we will see that come out of transportation and that it will be passed through the House. The Senate companion bill did not make it out of committee. The ranking senator would not allow it to come out of committee. So hopefully we can see something pass. I will continue to advocate for that because it's something that is necessary. We would also like to see the pursuits be able to be utilized for stolen vehicles. Part of my testimony was giving an example of someone who had stolen a car at gunpoint and had also basically pistol whipped the victim prior to taking their vehicle. And as the officers were responding, they saw the vehicle go by. They had reasonable suspicion, but they did not have probable cause. They had not established that yet. Therefore, the individual in that vehicle was allowed to go. The sergeant said, "No pursuit, stand down," which was the appropriate thing to do. We were still trying to gain probable cause. That individual had also committed, well, the individual in that case had committed the crime of robbery in the first degree. Detectives also determined that that individual had already been convicted of burglary 2, unlawful possession of a firearm 2, and robbery 2. And since October of 21, the suspect has also been convicted of attempted robbery in the first degree and has 13 documented arrests, most involving firearms violations and other violent crimes such as robbery, escape, and auto theft. If that doesn't say that we need to have more opportunity for our officers to keep our community safe, I don't know what does.
Mayor, what bill was that?
It's House Bill 1363, substitute House Bill 1363. With that, that will complete my comments for this evening. We have no reason for an executive or closed session, therefore we are adjourned. Thank you.
Now you go to sleep.